Okay, so Council of Ulthuan episode 2. This one here, we're going to talk about Alarielle. So, if you saw the last video about Teclis, I discussed whether Teclis was worth taking as a character choice in a high elf army, and someone put a comment on the video saying that Alarielle was better. So I figured, well, maybe I'll just go ahead and do a video about Alarielle, and this is going to build into a third video in this mini series where I compare Alarielle against Teclis. So, Alarielle. Um, as far as I understand, I only got into fantasy in 7th edition. And the 7th edition High Elf Army book, Alarielle wasn't in there. Supposedly she was in older books. I can neither confirm nor deny that because I don't know. So if that was the case, it's nice to see Alarielle brought back into the High Elf book because she's a pretty big character in the High Elf fluff, in the High Elf backstory, in the lore. She's the Queen of Avalon. She's basically, she is the queen. She's got the Phoenix King, who's the big daddy, who's in charge of everything. But then the Alarielle, she's the everqueen. She's sort of like the big mummy who's in charge of basically all the women, and she hails from Avalon. And there's a whole backstory about how she lives in the woods and she's got a trained army of Amazon bitches and all that kind of stuff. And she's a really cool character. And when the book first came out, people looked at Alarielle and kind of thought she's the new Teclis. For people that know the old House book and know the old Teclis, you'll know that Teclis was just an absolute badass in the old book. I discussed that in the Teclis video, so I don't want to talk about Teclis too much in this video. So when Alarielle was brought back into the High Elf book, everyone thought that she was the new Teclis. She was going to be the go-to character to make a really, really powerful High Elf army. And to some extent, they're right, and we're going to talk about that when we get to it in the relevant sections. However, like any character, she does have things that make her not great, and we're going to talk about those first like we do with the tech list. So, first up, in terms of casting ability, she's no better than a basic level 4. And that's just, Teclis comes as a level 5, he gets to tailor make his magic phase, blah blah blah. Alarielle, you pay a lot of points, and essentially all you're getting is a level 4 caster in terms of casting power. Yes, she's got lots of special rules that synergize with the army, but in terms of being a wizard, she's no better than a level 4, and you're paying a pretty decent increased price tag to do that. She's 350 points. She's not cheap. So I think that's definitely a negative for Alarielle, in the sense that trying to force through a lot of spells in a turn is very easy with someone like Teclis or the Slan, for example, or any other level 5 wizards. And Archon the Black is level 5. It's very easy to push through a lot of spells. But with a level 4, you're kind of just stuck, to the basic of, I'm a level 4. Now, she does have the ability to take her Banner of Avalon upgrade, but that means then buying a BSB with the Banner of Avalon, and you're looking at minimum, that's what, 130 points or something, minimum, to get the Banner of Avalon, and that's just a lot of points. There's a lot of points on top of the pretty decent price tag. So, in terms of casting power, she leaves a lot to be desired. On top of that, she has a restricted magic law choices. Now, she does have access to high magic, light, and life, which are all pretty decent laws. They're all, they synergize well with the High Elf army. They work well. But when you look at the other choices, when you look at your basic level 4, who can take high magic plus all 8 laws, when you look at Teclis, who can take a single spell from any law, he just picks the 8 best spells that are going to win him the game, and then on top of that, he can be a level 6 Lawmaster from high magic. It really does compound the fact that, as good as Alarielle is, that you can build a better magic phase for a lot cheaper. So I don't like the fact that Alarielle doesn't have access to all the laws. Death, I can understand if they left Death and Shadow out, but Beasts, she lives in the forest. She could quite easily justify having access to Beasts. Heavens, there's a lot of magic laws that got left out that perhaps shouldn't have been, and I don't like the restricted magical law choice from an army who aside from always strikes first, the plethora of magic choices defines the army book. So I don't appreciate that as a rule for Alarielle. On top of this, included in a price tag, you're paying for a lot of special rules. Unfortunately, a lot of them don't really make that much of a difference. So one of the special rules is the Boon of Ishir, which basically makes the units she's in have magical attacks, which is quite cool, which is really, really good. But the second part is it makes the unit immune to fear and terror, which is kind of pointless when you're considering she's probably going to be leadership 10 with a reroll. You're not going to fail many leadership tests. Now, if it's immune to panic, which isn't included, they'd make it pretty decent. But again, it's a nominal special rule that you're paying points for. So the second special rule is Chaos Bane. Chaos Bane is pretty good and pretty bad at the same time. It does damage to demons within 12 inches, but you have to minus D3 from your casting if there's a demon model within 12 inches. So you do D6 strength 4 hits to him, but then you minus D3 from all your casting attempts. For Alarielle, who's not a great caster anyway, having a negative D3 against this army is terrible. And of course, this only comes into play when you're playing demons. Or it's any unit with the demonic special rule, so yeah, that's what some stuff from warriors and demons. It doesn't come into play all that often, and when it does, I think it hurts you more than it does damage. So that's a pretty poor special rule in my opinion. On top of that, she has the Touch of the Everqueen, which gives a heroic killing blow against the forces of destruction. Again, she's got one attack. It's not going to really do anything ever. However, you will remember that one game when she lops the Demon Prince's head off in combat. You will remember that game forever. But that's going to happen probably maybe once or twice the entire time you're going to be using. So there are special rules. A lot of them don't really offer anything concrete. And again, you're paying a lot of points for that. I think where she really makes up her points is in magic items, which we'll get to in the pros, because they're actually pretty good. So, taking Alarielle herself aside, she kind of pushes you towards a particular playstyle, and I don't like that. I like having a lot of variety and tactical choices. Now, with Alarielle, you can do whatever you want. Of course, you can. But her special rules kind of push you down the road of playing a Death Star list. You know, when we get to her special rules and stuff in a minute, we'll see why. But with Alarielle, you kind of want to take as big a unit as you can, stick as many characters as you can in there, and just play points denial, play very defensive, you know, very static, and almost not play Warhammer at all. And I don't like that as a play style. Again, I kind of like to be more aggressive. I like to push out. I like to have tactical flexibility. And in my opinion, and to really get the best out of Alarielle, this is about playing Alarielle to the best, to her strengths. You really have to play a negative, defensive, Death Star type of army. And I don't like that. And if you don't like that, Alarielle's not going to be a great character for you. So she has stuff that's bad. She does have stuff that makes her awesome, just like every other character. She has great synergy with the rest of the army, like I alluded to just a minute ago in the cons. She does make units awesome. She gives the unit she's in magical attacks. Of course, we talked about that with your immune to fear and terror. But you also get a 5+ ward save against non-magical items, or against non-magical attacks. Which is, well, that's like the Wood Elf save, which is kind of, you know, everyone bitches about the Wood Elf save being only against non-magical stuff. But remember, the High Elves get the Band of the Will Dragon, so you kind of just circumvent that. On top of that, she has a thing where it's the Star of Avalon, which at the start of any turn, anyone within 12 inches just gets a wound back. So, you know, it's sort of like a free Law of Life cast. You just go, boop, have a wound back. It's really powerful for keeping characters alive. It means you can go light on. I mean, you're not taking ward saves anyway because you're getting a 5+ if you're in the same unit as her. But it means you can go even lighter and be a lot more daring. Particularly with wizards, you can, you know, kind of afford more miscasts and things. So she offers great synergy with the rest of the army. But again, it does kind of force you playing into that Death Star role of just lots of characters in this really hard to kill unit. massive points denial, but he's kind of flat, static, and boring, and I don't like that. She's a very safe choice. So Alarielle will offer you a lot of safety in the fact of she makes units very hard to kill. She's very reliable. She's not extremely fragile like Teclis is. Teclis is toughness 2 with no save of any kind. Alarielle's toughness 3, which still isn't great, but at least she gets her ward save, which of course you can increase her own ward save by taking high magic. So she's a much more safe choice. Again, you can build a very powerful unit around Alarielle. Normally, the one I've seen and kind of do want to play is you take the Alarielle and the unit of White Lions with the Lothan Sea Helm and Alathanar with a couple level 1 light wizards in there, and that unit is just, batshit crazy. But it's a lot of points and it's very static and boring, in my opinion. So she's safe, she's reliable, but you kind of see here I'm leaning towards she's kind of a boring choice. She does have a good spell mixing ability. So despite the fact she's only basic level 4 in terms of casting power, she has a restricted law, magic law choices, which you talked about. She does have a cool special rule where she can pick spells from different laws. So she has access to high, light, and life, and you can choose her 4 spells from those 3 laws in any combination you like. So you can take all 4 from high if you want, all 4 from life, all 4 from light, or you can pick 2 from life, 1 from light, 1 from high, and so on and so forth, and whatever you want. You can take 3 from one, none from the other, blah 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 blah. This is good and bad. It gives you good flexibility. It means you can kind of pull out the law attributes really easily. But if you look at some of the combos you want to get off, like maybe you want to get Throne of Vines, Fire Convocation, Light of Battle, and Speed of Light, the chances of rolling up those 4 spells when you're only rolling like 1 or 2 dice at the law is very, very slim. So whilst this is a good ability to pick different spells from different laws, you're probably gonna just go for all from one law, in my opinion. I think that's what you're gonna see. It's what I would do. It does give you flexibility. You come against that demon list. Well, now you can take Law of Light and have a banishment cannon. Or you come again, you need the combat buffs, where you can just pick up Law of Life, an increased toughness, etc. So that's a good ability. It's not great, in my opinion, but it still is a pro. And finally, she adds flavour to an army. And what I mean by this is Alarielle unlocks magic items that you can't take if you don't have her. And I quite like that. I think that should be a feature of a lot more characters and a lot more books, in my opinion. There should be a lot more customization based on characters. So the first thing... excuse me. So the first thing Alarielle lets you do is she lets you take the Horn of Isha. Horn of Isha is not great, but again, this is all about adding flavour, not necessarily competitiveness. So, the Horn of Isha is one use on the item, which basically lets you blow the horn at the start of your movement phase, and for the rest of the turn, Alarielle's unit gets to reroll, gets +1 to hit on all shooting and close combat attacks, which is pretty cool. But the Horn of Isha is like 40 points, I think, off the top of my head. So it's pretty expensive, and of course, if you're taking that, then you're not taking other items that are going to serve you better in the long run. But it's a nice little item and it adds flavour. The second magic item that Alarielle lets you take is the Banner of Avalorn. The Banner of Avalorn goes on top of your BSB. So you take a BSB, and instead of having a regular battle standard, you can take the Banner of Avalorn. So this has to go in your BSB. I think it's unclear as to whether it takes if it counts as a magic banner, so it takes your BSB's magical, the magic item points allowance, or not. Without looking at the book, I can't clarify that. But what it does is it gives you an additional +4 to cast from the laws of life and light. So essentially, this kind of gets over the fact of how Alarielle is a basic level 4. She can turn herself into a level 8. which is pretty cool, getting +8 to cast from life and light. And also, not to mention the fact if you're trying to run like a light counter with Alarielle, suddenly your level 1s are getting +5 to cast. So the Band of Avalon is a pretty powerful upgrade, but again, you're paying the points for it, on top of Alarielle, who is already a fair amount of points. So she does add the flavour, and it unlocks these different magic items that you can't take without her, but they're not game changing in any way. It's not like you have like you have to take Teclis to get the Book of Hoeth, for example. And if that was the case, you wouldn't do it anyway because whatever. But it just it adds diversity to the list, which is probably going to be quite static anyway. One thing I didn't mention actually, it kind of jumping back to the good spell mixing ability, is her final magic item that we didn't talk about, and that's the Stave of Avalon. So the Stave of Avalon basically allows Alarielle to recast the spell she's already cast in that phase. So pertinent uses of this spell is going to be in high magic, when you just want to get something off to bump up the ward save, for example. Maybe doubling down on Apotheosis or Fiery Convocation, punking out 2 of those in a turn, or Law of Life, dropping out 2 Dwellers in a turn. It's a really, really, really good ability to be able to cast the same spell again. I think she does have to successfully cast it though. I'm just going to quickly give this a read, because I do have it on a document. So yeah, it says she can already cast it if she's cast it in that phase, even if the casting attempt failed or was always miscast. It doesn't say anything about it being dispelled, so I don't know, maybe that's in the casting attempt failed. But basically, say it lets you double tap Dwellers, double tap Fiery Convocation. That spell that's really going to make a difference. Well, now you can double tap it in a turn, and that's a really powerful ability. So that's all the cons, all the pros of Alarielle. On the whole, she's a very good character, and yes, she is definitely worth the points if you want to play the play style that Alarielle gets the most benefit out of, and that is a defensive, almost negative Death Star sort of play style. If you want to play that sort of a list, then go ahead and take Alarielle. If you don't, I'd avoid taking Alarielle because that's where she's best, and if you're not playing that play style, you're not getting the best out of Alarielle. And then, of course, you might as well be better off saving the points and getting a basic level 4 caster. So, hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Remember to like and subscribe, and if you've stuck with it all the way to the end, that's awesome. I hope you learned something about Alarielle and how she compares to Teclis, and that's going to be the next video where I lay them both side by side and compare the special rules and their abilities against each other in the context of a game. I mean, reading it on a book is one thing, but seeing the special rules and the applications on the table and in context of a game is a different thing altogether. So I'm going to try and, as much as possible, contextualize the argument in the next video. So look forward to that one, guys, and remember to like and subscribe to the video. I'm gone. See you later.